Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Keeping It Disney, where we talk about all kinds of Disney related content. Today is more of a kind of a chatty thing. I wanted to talk to you about booking a Disney cruise from the UK. They are just about to, at the time of recording, which is the 7th of February, they're just about to release booking dates for Silver, Gold, Pearl and something else Castaway members. So very soon the dates will go on sale for 2026 for everybody, and I thought it'd be really useful either for people who haven't done a cruise before or for people who haven't done it for a little while. Kind of, is it worth it? Because it is crazy expensive. So I kind of wanted to do a bit of a roundup. You may or may not have seen the cruise vlogs that I've already put out from our latest cruise, which was last year, 2024. And I wanted to talk to you about the ship, the booking process, all that kind of stuff. And then you can make your own judgment really as whether it's worth it or not. So the first thing is, if you are a brand new cruiser, you can, or even if you're not, but you haven't done a placeholder, you can just book online. If you have done a placeholder and you did it on board ship, which is what we did, then yes, you get a bit of a discount and you kind of pay your deposit up front, which is why I like doing it, because then it means I'd have to worry about that bit. You have to call up to do it. So for the cruise that we went on last year, that's what I had to do. So I had to ring up, really simple. You tell them the date of the cruise you want to go on, you tell them how many people, what stateroom, all that kind of stuff, and then they just do it, and then it just appears in your Disney Cruise Line app, and then you can make payments to the balance as and when you choose to. So really simple. We opted for booking various things that we hadn't done before. So we did Royalty, we booked Royal Gathering, we did Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. I didn't book any adult dining because I was the only adult going, and I thought that would be a bit much to go to a fancy pants restaurant on my own, so I didn't do that. But once you've booked your cruise, depending on what level of Castaway club member you are, you can book that so many days in advance of the cruise. The higher up tier you are, the sooner you can book it. So some people, we also had a Facebook group, and some people who were brand new to cruising thought they were going to miss out on some things, so they were really quite concerned about, say, booking Royal Gathering, for example. But actually they a lot of them actually did manage to get a place. But just that's something to be aware of. Once you book your cruise, then there's another lot of stuff to book if you want to, closer to the time. We did online check-in, which is really simple. Some people get up ridiculously early because they're desperate for an early port arrival time, and you can do that, but I didn't, and I was still quite lucky. I think our port arrival time was like midday or something. So that basically is what it says. So that's the time you arrive on the port, you queue up, you go through security, you're then waiting in a little holding area, then you go onto the ship. So the earlier your port arrival time, the more time you have on board ship before it sets sail. So that's why people kind of are desperate to get an early slot. Talking about the Disney ships, the Dream is the one that we have been on the last 2 sailings. I believe it's the Fantasy that's coming in 2025 to Southampton, and then 2026 is back to the Dream again. So as I say, I can only talk about the Dream, but I'm sure that they're all very similar from what I've kind of seen and read about. So the first thing is how clean they are. Now, for anyone who's been to, say, Disneyland Paris, it's not quite as clean as it could be. If you've been to Florida, you're like, wow, how is there this many thousands of people in this one tiny area and it's immaculate, like nobody's been here. The cruise is very similar. So you won't see, I don't know, overflowing rubbish bins, you won't see dirt on the floor, you won't see bathrooms with soap not topped up or whatever. They are unbelievably clean, and as are the rooms. So your stateroom is something which you have somebody coming in to clean it when you're not in during the day. They then come back and they kind of set it for bedtime, and they tidy up even just like your mess. Like if you've left cables lying around, which I often do, you know, they fold them up for you and put a little Velcro thing around, so they're all nice and tidy. And it's just fantastic. The level of cleanliness is akin to, if not better than, Florida, is what I would say on that one. When you go into the ship for the first time, you're going into sort of the main atrium, and it's so grand and beautiful, and you sort of get that emotion that I imagine you would feel if you were going on the Titanic, you know, back in sort of 1912. That sort of, whoa, you know, it's huge, and how is this able to float? That's the sort of impression that I always get anyway. And there is an amazing smell on the cruise ship. Now, again, if you've been to probably Florida, I'd say more than Paris. If you've been to Florida and you've been to some of the various resorts and things, or you've been, you know, you go past, say, Main Street Bakery and it smells like popcorn or baking or cinnamon or whatever it might be that day, the cruise ship is very similar in that it's not overpowering, it's not really, really strong, it's not going to affect you if you've got kind of asthma, doesn't catch in your throat, but it is a lovely kind of clean smell, and there's nothing like it. There's literally nothing like it. And I think they sell it in candles and things like that, I think. Not so much through Disney, but sort of by third parties that kind of replicate it. And there's nothing else like it. And I don't know if all the cruise ships smell the same, or they each have their individual, like the hotels do, but it's beautiful. So once you're announced on, you go in, and you can't access any of the shops because you're in port, so they are closed. But you can access like one of the restaurants, so there's usually Animator's Palette in the Dream, and they have like a welcome aboard lunch, which we didn't do this time because Lucrezia, and to be fair, and I were so excited we didn't want to have a sit down, but it's a special menu. You can go to Animator's Palette, it's not crazy busy, and you can have a lovely kind of sit down lunch, and it's all included. So that's something that you might not want to miss. The first time we went on the cruise, we did have the welcome aboard lunch, and it was lovely. We had a slightly later port arrival time, I think, from memory, and so it's kind of actually was lunchtime, and we were starving, so we did that. But this time, when it was just Lucrezia and I, we just went up to Cabanas and had a kind of self-service kind of lunch. Okay, so moving on to the stateroom. Now, when you first get onto the ship, the staterooms are quite often not open yet, so you can't get down to them. That's not a problem. There's plenty of other stuff to do and sort of wander around and look at. But when you are allowed to go into your stateroom, it's immaculate, as I've kind of said. Your luggage is brought to your stateroom, or just outside your stateroom for you, by the room hosts, so you don't need to be dragging your luggage anywhere. And then you can go in, you can get changed, you can unpack, you can do whatever you like, you can get a swim costume on and go swimming. But it's very, very seamless. So, the doors are open, so you can go into the areas where the cabins are, and you're walking along your corridor, and oh look, there's my suitcase, and you just take it in. It's really, really seamless, really, really simple. You don't even need to think about it. One of the things that I wasn't particularly aware of when I first went on a Disney cruise was the muster drill, which I'm sure is common, is obligatory among all cruise ships, but I'd never done a cruise. Now, the muster drill is something that you must attend. You can't just not, and you have a certain area that you need to go to depending on your room number. You go along, and they do like a little safety demonstration and tell you what to do if there's an emergency, and then they play the muster drill alarm, which is incredibly loud. They do warn you, so you can put your fingers in your ears or whatever, but even doing that is crazy, crazy loud. So just kind of warn anyone in your party that might be affected that it's really, really important that they do actually listen and put their fingers in their ears, because it's really, really loud. Once you've done that, you can rush on up to the deck 11, deck 12, whichever one you want to go on, and there is like a sail away party. It's not very long. There's like a song and some dancing, and the characters come out, and we're going, off we go, and it's lovely. It's really, really lovely, and it's a nice way to start the cruise and to start kind of being immersed in that Disney magic, which is great, and that's kind of what the cruise is all about. So it's a really, really nice way to start, kind of kickstart that and get that going. You also can go to the kids clubs. This is one of the only times you can, as an adult, go to the kids clubs and actually wander around and see what they're all like. And you may have seen the video where Lucrezia and I did that. You don't need to book the kids club once the children go in there unaccompanied. You just turn up, they sign themselves in and out if they're old enough and you've agreed that they can sign themselves out. If not, they'll send a message to you as the parent, and then you just go and pick them up. It's incredibly safe, because again, the children can't sign themselves out unless you've already agreed that. Nobody can pick them up unless they have a photo of them and it's on their pass that these people are allowed to pick them up. So when we had Lucrezia and I had the other children, I put the other children could go and collect her, because obviously at that point they were 18 and 15 or something, so they were perfectly capable of going to collect her. But this time obviously it was just me that could go and pick her up, but I did allow her to sign herself out if she wanted to come out, because she always knew where I was going to be. If anything happens, if your child's not happy, if they've tripped over and hurt themselves, or they just want dinner, whatever it is, then the staff in the kids club will send you a message, and then you can just go and pick them up or read the message and go, yeah, that's fine, whatever, I'll leave them, or whatever it is. It's incredibly safe. Moving on to the shops. Now, there are not that many shops. When I was on my first Disney cruise, I was sort of surprised. I was expecting it to be a bit more like a theme park, in terms of there's a shop everywhere you go and there's loads of different merch and it's all very exciting. It's not that, which, as I say, did surprise me on my first cruise. There are, a couple of shops, and it's not like there's not a lot there. However, don't be going expecting that you're going to have loads and loads and loads of choice, because you won't. And the other difference is stuff sells out, which doesn't really happen in the parks. Even things like, the teddies, not some, the Loungefly and the Spirit Jerseys, yes, they sell out 100%. But I wasn't expecting things like kids' toys, teddies, just stuff like that you can just get on Shop Disney to sell out as quickly as it did. So if there is a bit of merch that you're desperate for, or you think, I don't want to buy it on Shop Disney, or I don't want to buy it on Vinted, or whatever it is, I really want to buy it on the ship, my suggestion would be, if it's really important to you, go and do it as soon as you can, because if you wait, the potential is that it could be sold out. And there are empty shelves, because they don't restock mid-cruise. So they have their stock, they put it on the shelf. When that sells out, they restock it, put it back on the shelves again, and then that's it, they're done. And they do not restock again until it's the next cruise. So just bear that in mind. You cannot pre-order merch, which I kind of get, but you can pre-order things like the romance package, where you get the robe and the champagne, and that you can do that. There is like a kids versions of things like backpacks and water bottles and colouring stuff and all that kind of thing. You can pre-order that, and it will be left in your stateroom for you, but you cannot pre-order merch. So that's another thing that I was aware of after before my first cruise, but I wasn't appreciative of how quickly things would sell out. So that's just something to be aware of, really. Now, DAS, Disability Access Service, Priority Service, whichever park you've been to, you may have experienced this, is not a thing on a ship. I was aware of that before the first cruise. I was obviously aware of it before the second cruise, but I didn't appreciate kind of queue levels and stuff before we went. And queuing is a problem for myself because I'm physically disabled, so standing for long periods of time is just not something I could do. And for Lucrezia with her autism, queuing is not something that she can comfortably do for very long. If you've used that kind of service, even in a UK theme park, wherever, and you think that it could be an issue for you, perhaps try and plan your activity accordingly. So maybe have a member of your party that doesn't mind queuing, perhaps standing in a queue and then calling you over, or managing expectations would be really, really important, because as you know, as amazing as the staff are, they can't do anything about the queue, and they can't make it go any faster. So that's just something kind of to be aware of, really, particularly if meeting characters and things are really important to you. Now, the swimming pools, I was surprised at how small they actually are. Liam, my son, during our first cruise, called them Veruca soup, because they're very small, they're very crowded from pretty much all day, really. They regularly get the kids to come out the pools, empty the pools, clean them, and then they go back in. But that doesn't really help with kind of overcrowding. The hot tub is kind of separate to the pool. It's sort of up some steps, and then it's like a glass, so you can look out onto the sea, glass windows and things. That I never even attempted that, because that was foul. Like, nah, absolutely not. The water slide, the queues for that can get very long. We were lucky that we decided to do it on the day where we were in port, so there was less people, which actually worked really, really well. But I mean, just as a side note, I guess the water for that is cold. Like, the swimming pool's lovely and warm, it's great. The slide water, I think that was actually what made me scream more than going off the side of the ship and how fast it was. That was fine. It was how cold that water was. It was a one and done thing for me, because I was like, nah, I'm not getting back in that. So that's just something to be aware of. And just managing expectations that it's not, in the kids area particularly, it's not going to be this lovely relaxing, I'll dip in the pool and do a few lengths. No, that's not possible. Having said that, the adult only areas are by definition much quieter. There's kind of lots of little nooks that are just adult only, which I didn't really use, but I walked through them, getting places, and they are much smaller. They are much less crowded, and you would be able to have a nice relaxing sort of swim, bob in the water or whatever. But if you have kids, just be aware that a pool day is going to be a lot of sort of in crowded waters. Everybody out, drain the pool, fill it back up, everybody back in. There's a lot of that. Okay, so arriving in the foreign port that you are visiting, lots of people do get off the ship. Lots and lots of people do. So the ship does feel less busy, but as I said previously, the shops are not open because you are in port. So you can't think, oh, I'll have a little wander around the shops. Well, there's not so many people here. You can't do that. There were quite a few people on the last cruise that we went on that felt very seasick. I think it has something to do with one of the stabilizers not working properly or something. It was crazy rocky, I must admit. I mean, I didn't mind it at all. I didn't really feel seasick. It was quite fun, sort of walking around. I quite enjoyed myself. But for those people who did feel seasick, the opportunity to get off for the day and then get back on actually was really, really helpful. So that might be something to sort of consider or think about prior to going, well, actually, I'm not going to have my heart set on definitely not getting off, just in case I feel seasick. So again, managing expectations if you have children who like to always know the plan. Talking about things to do on board ship again quickly. Shows. Now the shows, they say they're Broadway quality, and again I thought pinch of salt, but actually no, they really are. They are really worth watching. They're incredibly well done. The cast work so hard because they do 2 shows and then they're often doing other bits and bobs during the day, but they are so talented. I would definitely recommend watching them. All the shows are in English, unlike in Disneyland Paris, where obviously you have bits in English and bits in French or whatever. They're all English, and yeah, just to kind of say you've seen them, really. I would say definitely try to do at least one. With Lucrezia, the first time she didn't come to, I don't think she came to any of them, because again, sitting that still for that long is not her strong suit. But I watched them with the older children while Lucrezia was in Kids Club. This time round she didn't want to go to Kids Club and I'd already seen them, so I wasn't as worried. We did Beauty and the Beast for about half of it, and it was all a bit much, so we left. But definitely worth trying. Pirate Night is usually sort of mid-cruise, and it's incredibly immersive. So during the day, it's normally a port day, so people are on and off. It's very relaxed. As soon as everyone was back on again, and Pirate Night was now a thing, everything's themed, so that you've got the staff wearing various piratey things. The characters are all wearing piratey outfits. There's pirate backdrops. There's pirate party, which is really good. Particularly on the English sailings, loads of the guests dress up as pirates, various different outfits and things. But just to be aware that the queues are even longer for characters on Pirate Night. So again, about managing expectations, it may be that actually you only do one character. I think that's what we did this time, and that was okay. But just to make you aware, they are fantastic, but they're quite full on. The menus are the same throughout all restaurants. They're pirate themed. But again, if you look at that in advance and you think, oh no, we will not eat this item, if you tell your server the day before, they will make sure that you have got something that you will eat. Or you can obviously go up to Cabanas if you want to. One of the things I would say about food is, in my experience, the food's been great. There are a lot of mixed reviews whether the food's any good or not. Personally speaking, it's amazing. As a vegetarian, sometimes it's quite difficult or boring, but I didn't find that at all on the Disney cruise. Room service is all included, which is not very typical for obviously hotels and things like that. So it's really nice to be able to do that. It feels a bit decadent, but you haven't got to pay. Obviously, you give a tip, $1 per item or something, to the person who brings it, but you don't have to pay for the actual items. Breakfast is outstanding every day. You can have room service breakfast if you want to, which is a more limited menu, or you can go to Cabanas or one of the sit-down restaurants for breakfast. Lunch, again, so many different options and different each day, which I thought was really, really good. And on the day that we were in port, there were sort of Spanish themed lunches, which I really enjoyed, but enough kind of safe food that Lucrezia didn't have a problem. Another good thing for room service is if you've had particularly say you're on an earlier sitting for dinner, you've had your dinner, you've done the show, you've wandered around the ship, you've done whatever, you then come back to your room. It's really, really nice to sort of have a bit of room service, settle down, watch a movie, that kind of thing. So it's definitely something that I would recommend using. Just a couple of extra sort of thoughts, really. The cruise for us was about $1,400 per person, something like that. Which, when you think it's over, $3,000 plus the deposit, it's a lot of money for two people for 4 days. It is. But for us and everything that's included, which I've just got a little list here, all the soft drinks, all the food, you've got restaurants, you've got self-service, you've got an ice cream station, you've got pizza and burger bar, you've obviously got the room service, you've got all the characters you can meet. There's 6 kids clubs, which are incredibly safe and well organised. There's the various parties that I've mentioned. There's all the activities. There's stuff going on every single day that you can join in if you want to. Quizzes and midship detective and drawing classes and all sorts of different stuff. There's the Broadway quality shows. There's, you get table service for any meal if you want to. There's the cinema, which has kids films and sort of more adult films, which are sort of just released in the cinema, that you can see on board ship. You haven't got to pay for. You get a really high quality stateroom, which my understanding is from sort of cruise ship, line. It's incredibly big. As I said, I've not cruised anywhere else, so I can't say for definite, but again, looking into it, it looks like Disney Cruise Line have some of the biggest rooms available. You also get the Disney customer services, which are kind of US standard, not France, as I've said. So Nothing is too much trouble. They're incredibly polite. They are so hard working. You get activities in kids club, so it's not just drop them off and they run riot for a couple of hours and you get them back. There are structured activities that they can do if they want to, so it's slime making and various crafts and karaoke, and they do drawing classes for kids. There are some other items which are chargeable, which is Crazy Golf. We didn't do that, but there's Crazy Golf. There's a spa, which you can have a spa pass where you just go and enjoy this, the steam room, etc., or you can have individual treatments. And there's also Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique. There's the Royal Tea. There's cocktail tasting and chocolate pairings with them. And again, I don't drink, so it didn't really appeal to me. But you cannot possibly get it all done in one cruise. There's that much to do. So for us, it's actually worth it, because it takes all the kind of pressure off. Oh, what are we going to do? Are we going to get bored, particularly with a child who doesn't have much of an attention span? There was plenty for her to do, and she could chop and change and go to various activities and wander around the ship, and it was just magical. So for anyone who's thinking, do I do it, do I not? If you can justify the cost, if you look into what's included and you think that for you, your family, that's all stuff that you would like to do, definitely worth the cost. If you're just doing it because you don't really like Disney, but the dates work, maybe you wouldn't enjoy it that much, because it's very very Disney. So I guess it's kind of there's pros and cons. Some of the cons, I would say, are how crowded the ships are, particularly the Southampton sailings, because there's only a few of them, and during school holidays they are really busy. I mean, both times we've been, it's almost at or at capacity. Having said that, it didn't feel so mad busy that I couldn't move, I couldn't go where I wanted to find a bit of peace and quiet. It was not like that. The only times, as I say, when I was like, oh, there's too many people, was the pool, which I've said, and some of the queues for like the characters and things like that on various days. That was a lot. So yeah, for us, for our family, it was definitely worth it. I'm not booking a cruise for 2025 because I'm going to Florida for the summer, but I will be booking one for 2026, and I'm really hoping that my eldest daughter will come with us as well, so I'll have another adult to talk to. So I hope you found that helpful. Please don't forget to like and subscribe for more Disney content, and to check out my latest cruise blog. Goodbye.